Good morning, everybody. Keeper Eric here alongside Keeper Grace. And it's Monday morning's Keeper Chat. And we've got some exciting stuff to do. We're going to we're going to talk about eggs. And then we are going to try to incubate some chicken eggs here at the zoo and see what happens. And if they are fertile and the incubation works, then in about 3 weeks, we will have some baby chicks. So we'll take you guys along the journey. We'll put them in today, and then we'll need to check them in a week or two to see if they're fertile. And we can do all of that live, and you guys can watch and ask questions and everything like that. So it's going to be pretty exciting. So when did you want to do the drawing, Grace? You want to do it now or you want to do it later? You do it at the end?
We'll do it towards the end because there's only a couple people on right now.
Okay. So yesterday we were with the little baby goat Cadbury, and we had this painting. And anybody who donated up until now is going to have a shot at winning this painting. So we put everybody's name into a ball, an enrichment ball, and we're going to draw a name at the end. And then we have some other paintings. I think we need to double check, but we might be giving some of those away too for people who donate, but not today. Today we're just doing eggs. So all birds lay eggs. That's how they reproduce. That's how they get their babies. There's no other way that birds do it. And a lot of other animals do it too. A lot of insects, a lot of amphibians. I think all amphibians lay eggs. A lot of reptiles, not all reptiles lay eggs. And then there's two mammals that lay eggs. Let's see who knows which two mammals lay eggs. Go ahead and write your answers down. Grace will tell me who knows. There's two types. You got to get them both, and we'll see who's the smarty pants today. But let me pull out an egg and we'll talk about it. This is a normal run-of-the-mill chicken egg from our hens here at the zoo. And chickens lay eggs. The hens lay eggs. Roosters obviously don't lay eggs. They're the boys. But the hens lay eggs. And they lay eggs whether they're fertilized or not. And fertilized means that they are going to have babies in them at some point. And if you have a rooster with your chickens, there's a possibility of having fertilized eggs that will turn into, they'll grow into chicks and hatch into chicks later. If you don't have a rooster, if you just have hens, they just stay the same eggs that you buy at the grocery store, and you can cook and eat those. And if you pull even a fertilized egg immediately, you can cook and eat that one too. If you let it sit for a few days, it'll start to develop. And then if you start trying to eat it, it'll have some blood vessels and things like that in it. So you want to make sure that either you're eating unfertilized eggs or pulling them immediately after the hen lays them and not letting them incubate. So all eggs need to incubate before they hatch. And birds do this generally by sitting on the eggs. Other animals do it in different ways. So for example, alligators will make a big nest and lay their eggs in the nest, and all of the heat produced from the mud and the rotting plant material in that nest will keep the eggs warm. That incubates the eggs. But chickens, and most birds, will sit on the eggs. And if you ever see a chicken that is sitting on eggs, she will lose all of the feathers on her chest and her belly, a little patch. It's called a brood patch, and that allows her body heat to go to the eggs. And even though it's just a chicken sitting on an egg, the temperature stays remarkably the same all the time. And if you get too big of a swing of temperature, if it gets too cold or too hot, the egg will stop developing. So it's pretty amazing that just the chicken sitting on the egg keeps it at that constant temperature it needs to incubate. I also brought this thing. This is a bald eagle egg. And every year our female bald eagle lays 2 or 3 eggs. And they're never fertile because they don't... the male and the female need to fly up in the sky to mate, to get the eggs fertilized. And ours are on the ground. They can't really go anywhere because of their wing injuries. So they just sit on the ground and can't breed. So these eggs are never fertilized. And what we do with them is we pull them and replace them with eggs that previous years we've blown out and filled with plaster. That way, these eggs, we don't have to worry about them cracking or going bad and starting to smell. And then also, by putting fake eggs in there, it prevents the female from laying again. That's called double clutching. And when you have a chicken or something, it's not a big deal because you can kind of give them the proper amount of food so that they do get the proper nutrition. But producing an egg, especially one this big, takes a lot of energy out of the female eagle. So we don't want her laying any more eggs than she needs to because it's hard on her body. And we do that with a lot of dummy eggs in to prevent the double clutching. Now what we also have here
right there
is this thing. This is a pretend flamingo egg. It's never been a real egg. There's no shell. It's just made out of plaster or this isn't wood, is it?
No, I think they're plaster.
Yeah. But it's a fake one that somebody made, and this is a dummy egg as well. But these are eggs we actually use, we put in the nest to encourage the flamingos to lay eggs. Flamingos like to be in really big groups out in the wild. When they nest in like groups of hundreds or thousands of birds.
Yeah.
And so putting these dummy eggs in and building fake mounds will encourage the birds to breed because it makes them feel more safe and secure, like there's a bunch of other eggs around.
Right. So if you've been here previous springs and you've seen what looks like an egg in the nesting mound in the flamingo exhibit, it's been one of these.
Yeah.
It's been a nest that I've built and that I've put these dummy eggs in.
Grace is going to be a flamingo when she grows up.
Right.
Before I go on, I forgot. Anthony, our business manager, promised to buy us lunch if I told an egg joke. So
he's watching too.
Good. Why don't eggs tell each other jokes? Because they'll crack up. I'm glad I made Grace laugh.
And I knew the answer.
Yes.
We also had Calvin was your smarty pants.
Good.
He answered with the platypus and the echidna.
Good, awesome. Yes,
he was the first one. There were a couple others.
There were a couple others. Awesome.
Yeah,
Good job,
Heather
Calvin.
and Rachel also got it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for paying attention. So most mammals...
Got a couple of laughing emojis for that one.
Good. Most mammals give birth to live babies, obviously like people and stuff. But the echidna and the platypus will lay eggs. They're very primitive mammals, but still laying eggs. And then the in-between the platypus and the cow are the marsupials. And those are mammals that will give birth, but the babies are really small and not really well-formed. They're still blind. They don't really have well-formed legs. And so the marsupials will find the mother's nipple and attach to that and grow. So it's kind of interesting that we have the egg-laying mammals, the ones that are still real primitive. We have the ones that have placentas, and then we have that in-between stage too. It's kind of cool. All right, let's get to putting the eggs in here. This is an incubator. You can buy one of these to raise... We're missing the middle portion. I just realized that we're missing part of the incubator. Okay. We'll be all right. We don't need to turn the eggs for a couple days. We should be okay.
Till tomorrow, we'll fix it later.
Yes, we'll fix it later. So we're going to put the eggs in the incubator, and they will start to develop, hopefully. Now, a mother hen will turn her eggs a couple times a day. She'll literally get up and take her beak and roll them over. And that's interesting when you compare that to a lot of reptiles. Those are eggs that you don't want to move at all. You put them in the nest and you don't want them to be rolled or moved. If you do, that'll kill the embryo inside. So with chicken eggs, the mom will roll them, keep them moving. And so this little incubator if we had it all set up properly, would have little inserts, and the whole thing would roll back and forth, this gray part. And as it does, it rolls the eggs. Now, I put the date on those, 4/20, so that we know exactly when we put them in, and we'll know if they haven't hatched in 3 weeks, 21 days, 22 days, we'll know that they're not going to. And then over the next couple days, we'll collect some more eggs, and we'll put them in as well, so that we have a couple more chances to hatch chicks.
I'll warm back up.
Yep. So this is a really nice incubator. If you're looking for an incubator and you want to incubate something at home, this one's really good because it's got the automatic turning. It's really good with the temperature and the humidity. I don't work for the company, I promise.
Right, this is not an endorsement.
But go ahead.
Heather just asked, why are the eggs different colors of brown?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so we've got 6 chickens right now, one of which is a rooster, and then we've got 4 hens of 3 different breeds, right?
Yeah.
Grace knows more about the chickens than I do. So a lot of times the different breeds lay different color eggs. And do you know
So
who's
I believe,
who's? Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. I believe these, let me make sure I'm pointing on the camera. I believe these 2 belong to the Well Summers. Nope, I bet these 3 belong to the Well Summers. These 2 belong to the, who else do I have down there?
The Brahma.
The Brahma, and then this one I believe is the New Hampshire.
Right. So the white eggs we get are almost all white leghorns. Is that correct? You know,
From the, like when you get the one, yeah.
Yeah, most of the chickens we breed in the United States are all
Those
white
are usually
leghorns.
like the industrial, yeah.
Right. If you're really into it, you can get a breed called the Easter Egger, and those eggs are light green and light blue. They're really cool looking eggs. They don't hold up terribly well to the cold weather, but if you've got a really nice chicken coop and you want to get some Easter eggers, they lay really nice eggs. All of our breeds here at the zoo are called heritage breeds, which means that they're rare, that you don't find them on farms anymore. When we started moving away from having mostly family farms to having these large industrial farms, they started breeding chickens specifically for quick growth, quick egg production, large growth, large breasts, because that's what people like to eat most. And so all of these heritage breeds, the Well Summers and things like that, started being less and less popular. But it's kind of cool that we have them here at the zoo. You can come see some of the chickens that your grandparents and great-grandparents would have had on their farms back in the day. And it also preserves them so that we'll see them in the future.
Becca asked, how many eggs do they lay at once?
Well,
I think I usually find, for my chickens that I have down in the goat barn, they usually lay about 1 or 2 eggs a day, maybe.
right. Now, if we were going to let them, if they've never shown any interest in sitting on the eggs.
Yeah, none of my chickens are broody.
But what they'll do is they'll lay probably, 8, 10 at a time.
Yeah.
And then they won't sit on them until the last one is laid. And then they'll sit on those 8 or 10 eggs all at the same time and brood them together so that they all hatch at the same time. So you can have an egg laid, and as long as you don't start to incubate it, you can let it sit around for a couple days, just as long as it doesn't get too hot or too cold, and then stick it in an incubator later, and it'll start to develop. So that's how you can get, if you're really interested in incubating eggs, you can get some through the mail, and those are eggs that have been laid probably 4 or 5 days ago by the time you get them and put them in your incubator.
Carol asked, this is a good question, how do you know what gender they are when they're in the eggs?
Well, there's only one good way to tell, and it's pretty expensive, and that's DNA testing. And so you can take a little tiny bit of the eggshell, and that's 6 months, wasn't it? All of a sudden he started to crow.
Yeah, I thought he was a hen for the longest time, and then all of a sudden he started crowing, and I was like, whoop.
So if you live in the city and you want to incubate eggs, make sure you check your local regulations, but you're definitely not keeping any roosters.
Right.
Your neighbors
You will not be able to hide him.
Yeah. Everyone in the neighborhood will know you have a rooster. So hens only in the city.
All right. Well, let's do this last question. I don't even know the answer to this either. Kathy wants to know how many breeds of chickens there are.
Oh,
I have no idea. I'd have to look it up.
Probably hundreds.
Yeah.
We can look that up.
I think there's regional and geographical.
Yeah, and there's probably, well, we have like, white leghorns. And
right, and there's crossbreeds. So some of these will be crossbreeds because we only have our rooster is a Brahma, is a light Brahma.
Right. So we have a hen Brahma and a rooster Brahma. So we know that if they breed, they're going to have a pure Brahma, but everything else is going to be mixed. And we might keep one of those for education or something, but those aren't really chickens we want to have around because they're not a heritage breed. So we when those hatch, we won't keep them around forever.
Sorry. I just have to show the people. I'll just show the people what has been distracting me this whole time. Mom and her baby, Atula and her babies are wrestling on the camera again. All right.
Yes.
You want to grab this and I will...
Yeah. You want to draw?
I'm going to draw.
Okay.
So I stuck everybody's name that graciously donated. We had an awesome turnout on the goat video yesterday. So if you donated on that video yesterday, I wrote your name on a piece of paper and then stuck it in this fun little enrichment toy. We use these with the primates and stuff a lot. Or sometimes the goats too. We'll stick the yummy snacks in there, and then they push it around and grab snacks out.
Eventually the snacks will fall out.
Eventually the snacks will fall out. All right, so let's see. I don't know if I can pull a name out through the hole or not. I think I have to do it this way. Oh, we can... Alright. We have Valerie Thomas. You won the goat painting from yesterday.
Yay, Valerie.
So if you're watching, you can send us a message with your address and we will drop this in the mail for you this week. Thank you guys all so much for your donation. And keep an eye out. There will be some other paintings available in some of our live chats. Tomorrow is Tuesday. Our vets are coming in tomorrow. So we'll be doing that on the live.
Yeah, checking out the Tamando, I believe.
So yeah, we'll be bringing the Tamando up for her annual exam. All right. Hope to see you again. Thanks, guys.